think we're live.
Yes, sir.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another Echo Means Business YouTube Live, the August edition of what we're trying to do here, where we've been getting together on kind of a monthly basis and talking about things that need to be discussed in this industry that people want to hear about, people want to talk about, and we're continuing those conversations as we move towards media season here, and where a lot of the brands are going to release new equipment as we move into obligatory announcement for Equip, where I will be there. I think the guys on this call will be there. And of course, our friends at Echo, the Echo Means Business team at the Echo Means Business Social Media Lounge, which, we'll talk a little bit more about before we wrap up tonight. But I wanted to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to give it another minute, let everybody kind of hop in and join us. So if you're already here, go ahead. Let us know what's going on in the chat, how your Monday Fun Day is going, and how the August edition 2023 is going in your life. Hopefully a little better than mine, but we'll leave it at that. So I am Michael Bedell, owner of Bedell Property Management from Southeast Michigan, for those that do and do not know me. And I am on the Echo Means Business User Advisory Group Council for 2023, and I'm joined by another one of my council members here and another one of the user advisory group members, and we'll in a second get going and get them introduced and then hop into this evening's fun topic if you're joining us live here, which is UAG members discussing managing customers. And obviously there's a fun topic, managing customers. Always fun. So like I said, I'm Michael Bedell from Bedell Property Management. See, we've already got some of our good friends in the chat here. We got Ricky and Pablo hanging out. Always good to have them along for the ride. And we'll see who else stops on by. But let's let these other fine gentlemen on this panel go ahead and introduce themselves. Jensen, let's start with you.
What's going on, everybody? Excited to be here tonight. My name is Jensen J.C. Martinez. Also a member of Echo Means Business User Advisor Group, owner of Lawn Squad Mowing here in Massachusetts, central Massachusetts, and been a member of the Echo Means Business User Advisor Group for about 3 years now, and excited to be here to talk about today's subject, managing customers.
Beautiful. And then the guy that's popped in and out a couple times already, so we'll see how long he stays on this call. It's like we're back on Instagram again. Oh, no. Alex, introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. I'm Alex Carey Landscaping. We're out of Rhode Island. I'm on the Echo Means Business User Advisory Group for 2023, and I'm excited to talk about managing customers tonight.
Indeed. Managing customers, man. I about this time of year where we hit the dog days of summer, everyone that gets put through the ringer typically gets it about this time of year. So we thought it would be a timely topic for those that are listening in real time or going to catch this shortly thereafter, because there's really like two big hats we all wear. One is the talent that we all bring to the table and our ability to get work done. And that's great. There's all this talk about striping lawns and, how awesome hedges are pruned or all the wonderful things that we do. But then there's the other hat we wear, which is the business side of things. And that, while they tie together, is kind of a separate thought process. And so we want to kind of talk through some different things and just kind of share some experiences and scenarios. And but maybe these are some things that you can relate to. In some cases, maybe hopefully not. And either way, we hope that this gives you some takeaways as we move towards Equip Exposition and wrapping up the year, because it's at this time of year we kind of reflect and look forward to next year, which is the point of Equip, is planting the seeds to what equipment or which direction you want to take your business next year. And obviously, one of the things that's missing from an equip type experience is the managing the customer's end. It's great to have all these ideas. It's great to want to invest in all this equipment. But if you are not able to manage your customers well, they will manage you. And that may not be great for you staying in business and may truly deter your ideas from coming to fruition. So well, let's just start off. We've kind of kicked around some ideas the other week when we were chatting about this. And JC was sharing about how sometimes, not always, but sometimes it's important to really listen to what your client's needs are. And if possible, sometimes a great way to really forge a long-term relationship is kind of going above and beyond or trying to find a way to accommodate their needs. So JC, tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all have certain instances in our line of work. Basically, it comes down to we're customer service employees or workers for the most part. But I think going back to that time is that there's certain times in which customers may ask something special of you, or a situation in which they need you to accommodate something that they need. For example, I was talking to the guys a couple weeks ago about a certain situation in which a customer actually called me and asked me to do something for them. It wasn't necessarily out of the ordinary, but it was something like a last minute type of situation. I usually work, because I do it part-time, usually Thursday, Fridays, and over the weekends when I get a chance to do it. But this customer specifically reached out for me to do something for them on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, because they had some type of thing going on at their house. Another company was there doing landscaping, in which they were doing like mulch beds and whatnot. And because I think we've all experienced it this year, a lot of rain's been happening. So we've been having to accommodate a lot of different things and trying to catch up on some of the work. But nonetheless, long story short, customer reached out to me and asked me if I could last minute go out to their house on a Tuesday night. Not Tuesday night, but on Tuesday, and mow their yard because they were getting all this work done and they had some family coming over on the week. Now, it's not something that happens all the time, but I think it's something in the sense that if you're able to do it, having that communication, open line communication with customer, it could be something that could benefit you. Obviously, they're going to be satisfied with the fact that you're able to accommodate them. But on the other side of things, it might not necessarily be something that you always want to do, because some of these customers may make it a habit and you're ending up, trying to catch up and trying to please everybody, in which we can't, in a realistic world, we can't really do that all the time. Some of these things you have to pick and choose. So that was just kind of a situation that happened to me fairly recently, but I'm sure it's happened to a lot of people during the course of their work.
Yeah. So to kind of extrapolate off of that a little bit, like when I get put in those situations where people have certain requests, or I try and find out what is their timeline, especially because typically I'm not in a position very frequently to do anything last minute. I'm typically booked out quite a while, a lot longer than I want to be normally, just because like this stuff just lingers on, and then it's like, you spend all this time planning a project, and then you finally get to it, just in the world I live in. And so in turn, I try and find out pretty quick, if they're like, oh, can you come this Tuesday? In JC's instance, he maybe can do that. Me, it's a no. But, you want to ask those qualifying questions, and then kind of something else. And this is my question for JC, if I was able to accommodate it in my situation, it'd be kind of a special request. And so most likely I would want to charge a premium for that. typically because they're injecting chaos into my life. And I'm willing sometimes for that to happen, but it has to be for the right price, because after all, this is a business relationship. So is that something that, you were able to kind of go through, and whether you verbalized to them or not, did you end up, because you were able to accommodate their requests, is that something that you went ahead and made sure it was worth your while, since, you kind of have this parameter, and now all of a sudden you're doing it this one time?
Yeah. So the good thing is that I've had this customer for quite a while. I've known them very well. They've known me very well throughout the years. And I know that they wouldn't ask me something unless they absolutely really needed it done. And in that instance, I did not charge a premium, only because it just worked out perfect for me as well too. It was something that I didn't really have to go so much out of my way to do. Now, that being said, I'm not saying that in every instance, if you don't have the opportunity to charge a premium, and if it's something that's really going to hinder your weekly task or your schedule, or something you have to push aside in order to get to, that might be an instance. Or if they're requesting some type of special service, an added service, things of that nature, obviously, you're going to need to charge what you need to charge for whatever service you're providing. But in this instance, I mean, it wasn't anything crazy in which I had to kind of finagle my schedule around. I happened to be available. It was a type of service that I've done for them normally, that I do consistently on a consistent basis. And I was able to do it in the end, in the long run. And it worked out because I still continued, maintaining their property the following week. And I've been able just to kind of pretty much stick to whatever schedule I had. But again, I did it for them. It wasn't anything out of my way, but at the same time, I'm not saying to go around and do that for everybody, because it's going to be a point in which you're just chasing work all over the place and trying to catch up, and you're going to be in over your head.
Yeah, very, very well said. And that's great context, because, I admittedly, just based on our conversation, didn't know it was for a longtime client. And I have, there we go, Pablo on the screen here, the black sheep lawn service. I was about to say something like that, JC. It depends on the customer. There's really, in my world, there's like two, maybe three, but really two clients that I have where, if something happens, they could blow up my schedule, and it doesn't really bother me, because it's whatever they want based on their lifetime spend with my company and annual spend and the relationship. And something we'll talk about here in a little bit is how it's sometimes it is okay to let people be like family and get that level of treatment, because it makes you absolutely invaluable and priceless. And it could be a wonderful thing for the right people. But my book of business is a lot bigger than those two clients. And, everyone else, catches the short end of the stick every once in a while, and it is what it is, partly because sometimes those clients need something. And I think that's great context, is that this is a client you obviously have had for a long time. You enjoy working with them. And so, why would you not do something that's really, as you said, not actually really that big of a deal for you when you look at the scheme of a week, a month, a year, the career? It's virtually nothing, but they might remember that time, they why they're going to keep you forever. Well, I remember that one time JC bailed us out. He's the best. And so that's great, man. I'm really glad you went over that, because that's where a lot of people get this whole managing customers thing wrong, in my opinion, and just from experience and talking with other contractors, is they don't know when to give and take and not give and take. And I think why you've done well and continue to do well and have loyal clients is because you're able to communicate with them, and most of the time, because their requests are reasonable, you're able to just honor them. And it's great for the longevity of your business. It's the give an inch, get a mile type philosophy. So, and to interject Alex into this conversation, do you have anything you want to add before we kind of dive into some of the stuff that you do to kind of accommodate your clients?
I mean, I do agree to a certain extent with JC about, depending on the client. But obviously, once you start having, like in his instance, I don't know if I think it was just you doing that job, right? So if I had to do that, I got to think of it as a guy driving the truck, one helper, and three guys in total. So how much time am I spending extra on that job? Usually something like that, I would just charge the extra amount that we pay the guys hourly, like what it cost us for that guy extra. If it's somebody that's real close, if it's just a regular customer and they're like, hey, I really need this done. Can you do it? It's out of the way for us. I explain that to them and say, hey, listen, we can accommodate you, but it's going to be double the price this time. And here are the reasons X, Y, and Z why it's extra, not just, hey, it's extra. So I think to a certain extent, you can help them out. And like Mike was saying, they might remember you for that. Oh, yeah, he helped us out that one time. We're never going to swap. Or they might remember it as, oh, he helped us out that one time. Let me call him again right now. It's 9:00 at night.
Right.
And in the latter, you got to just kind of nip that one in the bud. It's okay to give people a little bit, but the second that gets taken advantage of, I think that's where business acumen comes in, and you just got to shut that nonsense right down.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you got to remember, like you just said, Mike, not too long ago, it's giving an inch and they take a mile. Like, it's almost like allowing someone to take advantage of you, almost in that sense. And knowing, like I said, and that's why it's a lot different for a lot of different people. Even when it comes to a professional relationship and a friendship, like you need to learn and remember to separate that, because at the end of the day, we're a business providing a service to a customer, and they could be friendly, you can be friends, but at some point you need to learn how to separate that, because now it's your buddy, and now I could call him up for whatever I need. He's going to be there and take care of it. And that's what you want to try to avoid. So you have to be very, very cautious when you decide to do things like that.
Or if I can say, because, I guess maybe I should clarify, those two clients that I'll blow up anything for, it's because there's no price tag ever attached to it. Like the things sometimes just need to get done, and I need to charge whatever I need to charge, and they will never say no to it. And there's agreements in writing that basically say that they and their family office have signed off on, and that's partly why no one else can get that treatment. It's because then it's like Alex, you may have to explain why you're charging more. And so, I think you're absolutely right, the JC, that, in my idea, or from my experience and my idea, the best way to kind of separate that family business dynamic is it's cool to treat everybody like family, but it's your written agreements that really make it that business relationship. And if anything, like in certain circles of work, and when you're dealing with the very, very wealthy, you almost kind of have to become part of the family if you want to stay. I've learned that many times over now in my career, especially as I've moved up the echelon of wealth, that it just, from my experience, the more money, the more crazy. And the more you have to be cool with that. And, at that point, you have to deal with like literally the family, and then the family office that pays you, and getting those two to intermingle and knowing how to calculate all that. And so that's probably where everybody really wants to get in this, where like if there's chaos that just has to happen. You know, you know, that Tuesday request comes with whatever JC is going to charge, and it actually, you know, admittedly, it makes it a lot easier to go get the work done, because it's not like, you know, it doesn't make a difference whether it's really no big deal for JC or Alex has to like send a bunch of guys and trucks, and he's going to blow $1,000 in overhead to go do it. Bill him 10. Who cares? Like, you know, it makes life a little easier. But if you don't have that type of situation, you better, you know, make sure you've got written agreements and things that are well explained. Otherwise, you know, you're primed to, you know, get hosed over in terms of payment, or get sideways with people, or, you know, that now all of a sudden they don't understand because you helped them once. They're not going to do this all the time, and you know, the needy Karens of the world, right?
Mike, to kind of touch on that, but that's something that you kind of earned with those two particular families. Like, they know that you're not gonna charge them that 10,000. You're gonna charge them what you need to get the job done, and you might have a good dinner that night.
And they want me to have a good dinner that night because they're having a good dinner, and they're, you know, good people. Their idea is that if they're winning, everyone should be winning. And, you know, if anything, like a great example of that is, you're right. The level of trust that was built is I had a client that flew in last week because they'd dropped their daughter's dog off, and that's what you do when you have your own plane, I guess. And they brought the estate manager in, and I happened to be there, so we met. But like, come to find out, he had meetings with like everybody else, no meetings scheduled with me, and all he wanted to do was like catch up and go over what he was going to go over with everybody else, see if I had any input. And then I walked him around and showed him all this stuff that like we got a budget for in the future. And so that's it. You know, you got to earn that level of trust. And as they put it, I'm now the owner's representative on the site, where you know, I'm kind of the eyes and the ears, and it's of like, actually it goes even a little beyond the landscape. There's like, if I see other things, then, you know, I'm to kind of not necessarily do something about them, but just keep everybody apprised, because, you know, sometimes it takes a village in that situation. And I'm lucky to be a village member. But you're right. It was earned, man. It's 100% earned. I've proved by like, you know, I've brought in contractors for them. I was the one who brought in the nanny who raises their kids, or their, you know, their grandkids, basically. You know, as far as my business relationship is concerned, and you know, I've helped establish some things there to the point where, you know, they're like, well, I don't know what's Mike say we need to do on some of this stuff, and you know, it just is what it is. But yeah, it's an earned thing, and it's taken a lot of gray hair and a lot of long years to get to that point where you're right. They trust me, and they trust me. You're right. I'm not going to charge them 10 grand. I never had. If anything, like, you know, I'm the guy who, you're right, we all win together. And, you know, I got a prize that, you know, there was a contract change like a few months back where they're pre-approved, like automatic sign off, just get this done. And they added a 0 to the end of it just based on the net worth change and whole situation to kind of save people some time. And it was based on trust. It was like, dude, we don't need to micromanage you at that level. Like, you know, we believe that we can spend this much with you now every month, and like, don't even have to think about it, because if we're spending up to that much, like, it's very reasonable, and you're probably doing stuff that needs to be done on our behalf. And so, yeah, I thank you for pointing that out. It is a earned experience. And to dive into some of the stuff that we talked about, Alex, you were talking about how, you know, you've really expanded into some of this big boy project stuff that comes with some big price tags, so much so that it's kind of atypical for most clients to be able to just pay for that out of pocket. And so it involves paperwork and financing. And so share a little bit about that with everybody here, because obviously that's something a lot of people are going to aspire to. And I think people would want to hear a little bit about how you're doing that and how you're helping your clients get through that. But it also is setting the whole experience. And then we'll dive into the chat here, because I see some good comments.
Well, so over the past couple of years, we started to kind of cut back on our maintenance, like the grass cutting, hedges, stuff like that. Started to transform more into the construction and property management, like exterior stuff, snow plowing, parking lot issues, anything of that nature, like the heavier style construction. And over the past 2 years, I've been working with a mentor of mine to start learning the septic business, because a lot of the area where I live and a lot of the towns that we service are currently on septic systems, and there's no plans to go to a sewer. And it's kind of in that stage right now where they're hitting their 25, 30-year mark on a lot of these houses that were built. So now the systems are failing. So when you start doing stuff like that, obviously you have to have your licenses. I'm actually taking my license test the week before I head out to Chicago. So it's going to be an awesome September for me. But I'm kind of learning the whole business, but I've also been learning the managing the customers aspect of it. So you get that call, my septic's backing up. You go there, you figure out what's going on, and the whole yard's muddy, the system's failed. You can't just go right at them and say, system's failed, it's going to be 30 grand, write a check. People don't respond to that. You got to kind of explain what happened. Is there anything we can do to buy you a little more time? We got to get plans drawn. We got to get things approved. So it's not a tomorrow, but in the next couple of months here, this is what's going to happen. Your yard might look like a nuke went off. Your favorite Japanese maple is going to be removed, unfortunately. So when you start getting into stuff like that, you have to be able to explain that to the customer, and you have to put that in writing for the customer, especially when you're tracking over a driveway continuously. Is that driveway already cracked? Stuff like that is things that you have to be able to communicate to your customer. Hey, there's a lot of spider cracks in the asphalt on the driveway. We're going to have heavy trucks on it. We won't take the responsibility if the asphalt gets any worse, because it is already to the point where it needs to be replaced. So the bigger the job, I guess, the more you need to speak with your customer, have more in writing, work with your attorneys, and make sure that you're protected and you're protecting your customer as well. So even something like catch basins, like we've been doing more commercial properties. One of my guys noticed the catch basin that had started to cave in. We brought it to the attention of the property manager. She's in charge of everything that gets done there. She signs the checks, whatever. And we had to explain to her why you can't wait another 2 months to do it, and it needs to be done now. Because if you wait another 2 months and we start having rain that keeps washing in, now you're going to have a huge area. Right now, the problem's this big. Let's deal with it now, not when it's this big. So kind of coaching your customer, in a sense, is your job as the business owner, and allowing your guys to execute the job is their job.
Very well said. Very, very well said. And it's funny you brought up septic fields, because that's that client that flew in. It's their daughter's house that's here. That one of their daughters, and that's the site that I do a few other things for. But that's really the big to do for them. And they bought the place actually from a well-known car dealership owner in Southeast Michigan, and I'll leave it at that. And he did not disclose at the sale that the septic field was failing. And they move in, and they get the sewage in their basement of this very, very nice house. And I had just brought in the custom home builder that I work with, and me and him tag team manage that site now. And he brought in the local go-to septic guy, whose actually last name is very similar to mine. It's Brendel instead of Bedell, but everyone thinks we're somehow related, even though there's just an R and an N in there. But anyway, they're good guys. I've worked with them before. And they're like, oh, we're familiar with this address. And they're like, tell me more. And they go, well, for the past 3 years, the system's been at failure. And because, this guy is a car dealership guy, he had a bunch of money too, but not nearly as much money as my clients do. And that's about to come into the picture here. And because he didn't disclose it on the sale. So the Brendel septic field guys go, well, we've been coming out like every week or two for the past 3 years and sucking the fuel, the tanks out, because there are two tanks, the dosing tank and the regular tank, sucking them all out, and then they get totally to capacity in like a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, and that was them coming out was cheaper than, because he knew he was only going to be there a couple years. Then it ended up being $80,000 for the new field, and then $40,000 in landscaping and blah 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 on top of that. And anyway, my clients got all that documentation and circled back to Mr. Dealership Guy, and he settled that one before it went to court, because that is real estate fraud. And he would have done some time in prison had they moved forward with that. And hence why he paid for everything. So he didn't get in trouble, but it was all with documentation. It's all but that was a rare situation where it's big enough money that people could just pay, either way, it was just going to be paid for. But in, those situations, it's the 6-figure price tag, that stuff, there's a lot of explaining that goes on. And as I'm just telling that story, I'm thinking about when I was walking their estate manager around last Thursday. There's probably a 40 or 50 foot tall spruce tree on the northwest corner of the house that they had to do 2 lateral trenches on either side of the trunk to tie into the basement for the new septic field. And that would have been about this time in 2018. So let's say July or August of 2018. And since then, that tree, it was just kind of okay the past couple of years and has really gone into decline this past summer. And, I basically said, once things firm up in the winter here, we're going to have to get that taken down and removed. That way it doesn't mess up all the perennials and stuff that are there now. But, of course, they want to know what happened, being especially that they're from California, they're not very apprised to what goes on, with plants here in Michigan. And I explained, there's these trenches and you whacked the root system. And there's actually another couple trees that are also in decline that ultimately it might be 5-10 years from now they'll have to be removed. But this whole septic field thing is the gift that keeps on giving, and they're probably not going to make the dealership guy pay for any of this additional stuff. Who knows? Maybe they got some additional sediment they're just kind of sitting on, knowing that this stuff will sit around. But these big projects, there's a lot of variables. And here's a great example where because I'm not on the hook for anything, I have no problem being like, here we are 5 years later and stuff's still dying and messing up and failing. But in a different world and situation, I could see calls being made and someone's angry or they don't understand why the tree's dying and now I'm in charge and it's my fault. And thankfully, it's nothing like that at all. But these bigger projects, there's all the documentation you got to do. And as I was telling us, I could probably go back through and show all these photos and videos, because every day I'm just pulling all this stuff. And then on that site over that area, there's there's a few, but there's one security camera that literally overlooked the whole thing. And so I knew that essentially there was one big time lapse of the entire job that their security team has probably sitting in some archive somewhere. I don't know. That probably would have made cool YouTube footage. I guess I missed the boat on that one. All right. I guess, I just realized that would have been kind of cool. I don't know why I didn't ever ask for that. They probably would have gladly given that, because it doesn't really matter. All right, let's check out the chat here. Ricky says, let's go. That's awesome. Shout out to AJ's Lawn Care. Ricky and Tino. Pablo, good to have you. What's up, family? We got the Jar Twins here. Hey, everyone. Pablo says fire them, end of conversation. Now, we're going to get to that part after the chat here, go through the chat here, because that's kind of what I want to dive into is, that sometimes is the end of where managing clients ends up. Jeremy N., thank you for joining us again, my friend. Glad you're here. We got the Sibs & Co. in the house. Jeremy asks how I am. I'm going to play the fifth on that one, but August is the dog days of summer, and I'm certainly feeling it in 2023. But JC's got a nice smile. He looks like he's good. So we'll just say JC's doing great. We'll see if you asked him.
I'm doing good.
Cool. All right. Jeremy says question. Paul Camara in the chat. Thank you for joining, my friend. I'm so glad you're here, dude. I saw actually what you posted on Instagram. I thought that was so well worded about it's okay to be an artisan too. And if you price things correctly, you can do whatever you want in this world. Don't have to just do production work. There's a world beyond route density, believe it or not.
Yeah. Hey, can I speak on that a little bit? So
go for it, brother.
So I know we were bringing that up before and how important route density is to the efficiency of your business. And I know when I started off, and a lot of businesses probably feel the same way too. They just want to try to get as many customers right out the gate real quick to try to make, some work, try to get some business done. But I learned that I was traveling more, and what's that saying? The juice, you don't get the juice out of the squeeze of the lemon.
Juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yes. That some of that term applied to what was going on with me. And one thing I learned, and I learned it took me a little while, but I learned it, is consistency. And that word consistency to me is very powerful when it comes to managing customers. That being said, because I know all of us, whenever we buy something from Amazon or we buy something online, we're always waiting. When is that package going to come in the mail? And it's like, and if it doesn't come the day that it's delivered, then you're upset or you're impatient, and then you're waiting next day. So that being said, what I'm trying to get at is that customers like consistency. And if it's something that you're able to establish in your business by learning your route density, it's very vital and important that if you can, to try to make it on a scheduled time, try to get to that customer's house roughly the same day every week if you can, if it works out for you, because they like that consistency. They like, they like to know that at some point today on a Saturday, you're going to arrive at this time to mow this lawn. And I think that's something that's very valuable when it comes to managing your customers, like building that relationship. They see you as being reliable. You're there on time. Also, consistency plays a role in the quality of work that you do, because we all know that our work speaks for itself. And I don't know if everybody else does, but I try to give the same type of quality to all of my clients consistently. I try not to do more. I know I talked about it earlier in the chat, but I try not to do more than what I'm charging for. Sometimes we might say, oh, that hedge might need to be trimmed, or I could take down this tree limb, blah, blah. Let me just do them a favor real quick, because sometimes they can, like we talked about earlier, take that inch and take a mile, or they expect it. Or the next week when you go to their property and do something, and you didn't do that little extra thing that you did last week, they're going to wonder why you didn't do that this week. So that's what my key point is in saying when it comes to remaining consistent with your route density, remaining consistent with your schedule. If you can, obviously there's factors, whether you might have to delay things, but also keeping that line of communication, being clear with your customers and being able to communicate on that level. But I think in all, consistency is a very important thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's, in the world I live in, it used to be more of like a route density, we're there every week at the same time thing. And now as my business has kind of evolved what it's into, it's there's a give and take on that. And I think that from my experience, clients, like it's funny. It's almost like the opposite of that. They in the world they live in, they don't have to care about it, and they don't even have to manage it. because it's all just kind of on autopilot. And so they it's more, oh yeah, he's here. That's great. Like, you know, they don't even have to know what day it is, right? And so but there's that managed expectation that, like, I'm gonna do it. It's what's gonna be done is what's gonna be done, and you know, it's you know, I have to handle it a little differently. Like you were saying, you got to be careful about not doing too much to ruin the expectation versus I've kind of learned I have to take like the white tablecloth 5-star hotel approach where, like, yeah, at that price tag, like, yeah, I might be doing some extra stuff, but I don't really care for the hourly rate essentially that I'm being paid at. I'm willing to dot some I's and cross some T's, or like that estate manager, because he flew in with the I guess we'll call her the grandma to return the dog and wrangle in some other contractors. You know, the last time he came in, actually, once again, we didn't have a meeting. I just happened to be there, and same thing. We wanted to walk around and catch up. But right as we were going to do that, he got this call and he goes, shoot, I got to take this. And I ended up standing there for like 10 minutes waiting for him, but didn't really chew me up because, like, you know, for what they're spending, you know, I can wait 10 minutes, not to mention I can kind of probably wind that cost into the next thing we're going to do. And it all works itself out. But you have to think like that in terms of how you're going to manage the situation. And sometimes managing customers is not even like it's what you do or say, it's how you do it and how you wind it in. And sometimes, you know, it's better to think like, okay, well, I'm about to do all this work and I'll just include the $100 or $500, whatever it is for time, or guys' time in Alex's case and stuff like that, to cover that cost. And it's, you know, if you do it that way, then nobody says anything, versus if you're like, well, I got to charge you $100 because we had this conversation and I waited for you on the phone, you might piss somebody off, right? You know, so there's a lot of you know, kind of 4D chess, as I've heard say.
You got to let us know if you ever make it on that private plane.
Well, I'll say this: if I get put on that private plane, it's because some other contractor's gotten shit canned, and I have to go fix something. Because that's almost happened, and like, it's not going to be very fun for me, because it's going to be like I have to go to like one of these airports because the plane is inbound, and because they have their own pilots and stuff like that, so they'll just come and get me. And I may end up like, they got a site in Italy, they got a site in Hawaii, so who knows? Like I might get like marooned somewhere or something like that. Yeah. So I kind of hope that, you know, for the sake of other contractors and stuff, everyone can figure their own stuff out, and it doesn't turn into I get sucked into stuff. Because I actually got told about how it actually almost happened a couple of weeks ago, because at the grandparents' house, which is very nice and on the Pacific Ocean, there was an issue with zone number 3, and the guy, like, they had it up to here, and thankfully the contractor resolved it. But apparently there was talk about like, okay, well, we can just bring someone else in that'll just fix this for us too, because you know, when you own, I think it's 43 different properties now, you have a whole slew of contractors, and some of us are, you know, I hopefully am on the good end of the list. It sounds like maybe I'm on the good end of the list, and it sounds like maybe the guy who's screwing up zone number 3 is now on the bad end of the list. And it's some of these properties are crazy. Like, their other daughter's house in Denver has a half-mile long driveway that's heated and is all pavers. Imagine getting that job, and imagine having to maintain that heating system. Wow. And that's like a full-time thing in itself. So that's why I'm going. I'm not so sure I want to get sucked into some of this stuff. You know, just because I can fix it doesn't mean I want to. It's a different world to live in sometimes with that. And admittedly, when I was down in Miami at the end of June. I think actually like right before we did one of these, or right after or something. But I had there was a little issue for a client, and I had to make a little trip, and part of it was to just look at some stuff, but there was some problem solving while I was there because there was a temporary certificate of occupancy that was up for renewal, and there were some boxes that weren't checked, but we got them checked while I was there because, that's just it. When there's big money jobs, people know people, and sometimes at these big enough projects, whether it's a first class seat or a private plane or something, like they'll just go literally pick up and bring people. And I've gotten brought in for another client twice for mall openings to get things ready because people just couldn't get it up to standard, and I knew what the standard was, and so I was there at the general contractor and owner's rep request, and I could commandeer whatever equipment I needed to get things done and just clean stuff up. And but it's all that managing customers and getting their expectations met and managed, right? And so one thing I want to discuss with both you guys is one of the ways, like I said, that I really manage all these situations, because I got to kind of like be Mr. Nice Guy and family and do whatever, but I got to make sure I'm protected, right? Is using agreements. So do both of you guys use contracts with clients, or talk a little about that? I guess JC, go first. Like when you do work, is it always a contract, or does it depend on the size of work, or talk about that a little bit?
No, it's just I don't have any really contractual type of work that I do other than just the mowing and the trimming. So most of it, my customers, the ones that I've had them for quite a few years now. This year I haven't really touched upon any new customers, just because I do it by myself on a part-time basis. But whenever I do, I am clear in the beginning with them with the communication, what they could expect from my services, the way I function, the way I work, the dates that I'm available, whenever rain delays are there. But for the most part, it's, paid through an invoice type of system in which kind of like pay as they go along. So pay per service that I do provide with them. I run yard books. So yard book, and that's a good software that I like to utilize. That's free. It's good because it helps maintain my business, organizes a lot of things for me. And it also comes across as, your business being professional. But for the most part, not too often I'm doing any contractual type of work, so I can't really speak on that too much.
Cool. All right. What about you, Alex?
For our the maintenance side, it's some of them are on a contract. So anything that's commercial that we do maintenance, snow plowing, all landscaping, that's on a contract. That's broken down monthly installments on the first of the month, and then they have 15 days to pay us. After that, it's written in at a certain percentage. After so many days, it gets tacked on, and then after that, it goes to collections. But some of the residentials I've had for a long time, being in my age, being only 22, I have had some of these clients since I was a little kid. So some of those I don't really need a contract for. They were wiping my butt when I was in diapers. So, so it's kind of funny because those are the clients that to go back to that family type aspect, that it's not just a, hey, how's it going? It's usually something more than that, a little joke, talking about their family, what they did, whatever. So those type clients, they're not on a contract. At some point, I'm going to just make it across the board. But any of our projects, anything that we do, bringing material in, mulch jobs, stuff like that, that's all has an estimate and then a contract with it, signed, dated, and then a deposit, depending on the size of the job. I mean, if it's like a $1,500 mulch job, probably not going to require a deposit. $5,000-$10,000 worth of pavers, we're getting a full material deposit before those pavers touch the ground.
For sure.
Through the phases, obviously the material deposit, phase one, if we're going to excavate, prep the base, we'll get paid when the base is prepped. Then, so that way we're not holding all the overhead and the customer is not stuck writing one big check. We kind of can split it up throughout the job. And that way, if something were to come up, it gives you a little bit of cushion That way you're not pulling from your working account.
Yeah. Yeah, no, really smart. Do you like, in terms of clauses on your contracts, do you have everybody like indemnify you?
Depending on who it is, each customer is different, I guess you could say. Depending on the customer, I guess, really is how we.
Excluding the people that used to like wipe your tushy when you were little Alex. Do you make all those people sign an indemnification clause and stuff like that?
Pretty much everybody that is going to have like a larger amount, everything gets done legally. But obviously those clients that I've had since I was the little kid that my dad dropped me off, those ones, I mean, I'll probably keep them even when I get into doing construction full time. I think I'll just keep them for a Saturday afternoon, go and cut my 4 lawns. And just, I don't think I could ever get away from that. And some of those people I'm just so close with. And I mean, they don't even like to walk on the lawn. It's just, he cuts it and we look at it. So
I have one of those. She's 96 years old, and she can't walk on it because she can't walk on it anymore. And she's still. I saw her 2 weeks ago. Man, she's like the Energizer Bunny. Literally, I think she's got like a pacemaker now, and she's beyond a cat. I think she's up in like umpteen lives now, and she's still going, man. And she's the only client where she does sign all this stuff, but she pays a different rate. And last year, I guess here's kind of an interesting story where, like, you take care of people and they start really opening up about stuff. And like, she's well-to-do-ish, but the market was pretty rough last year, and that's what she was living off of. And I actually we changed the work scope and management based on market conditions. And now that the market soared up, we've like made some other changes. And so, she talks to me like I'm her grandkid or something like that. And, I was the one who was saying, Dorothy, like, if this is things change this much for you, like, no, we're not doing this. We can wrap this into this, and she's taken care of, and she basically is the guarantee that, as long as she's around, she's going to be taken care of. And what's funny is actually she's the mom of more of an original client. I ended up having to kind of let that client go because they were with a whole bunch of other clients, and it was just time to move on from that, move into more what I'm doing now in life. But Dorothy stayed on. I could tell like her son's like, the hell, I get dropped, and like he gets hooked up, he still gets like a fall cleanup and stuff, and I sneak him in like a little bit if I can on some stuff, but like he knows, like, he somehow like gets like hosed because some of his neighbors are like dumb, and I needed to move on from that situation. And but like, his mom gets taken care of, and like, she even gets the like, oh, geez, I got a little bit of fertilizer left. And, I got to guess, like last year, there might have been an app that was just kind of included for her to take care of some things. And, you got to take care. It takes a village, right? You got to take care of people. But she gets treated a little different. If anything, maybe some of that's compensated by my very wealthy clients. And they feel good about that because they enjoy being charitable. They actually kind of know that there's some allotment for that whether it's helping like a Dorothy out or helping like a Detroit dog rescue out, or, there we go. We get it in there, Detroit dog. Like, they like that they're doing business with someone that, like, beyond taking care of their account, make sure some other good things are taken care of. And they feel very good about that. And, so, that's good. I was curious on how far some of these people, or far different people take some stuff. And, where I sit in life, I got to kind of protect what I have. And so that kind of is why everyone has to sign some stuff now. And, it is what it is. All right. So one other thing I wanted to go through with you guys before we kind of land the plane here is, so obviously we manage our clients so that, you know, shit doesn't hit the fan and we don't have to like fire people or, you know, like I kind of reference like that gal's son. I had like half the, this is back when I was bigger and we cut a bunch of lawns. I had like half the lawns. I think we cut like 58 lawns in that sub or whatever. And it was really nice route density, but like, you know, there's just, it was like literally everyone who lived in that sub was like stuck in high school, and I just kind of got sick of the drama, and there was opportunities to do other things, and I wanted to kind of scale the company back, and that meant letting go of all of that stuff, and you know, admittedly, part of me wanted to just kind of bail on that halfway through a season, but I finished out their entire season because a lot of that work was prepaid for, and I was honorable. And then I gave everybody, basically the company that cut the other half of the lawns in the sub, I teed everybody up, and that company could have had like the craziest route density. And oddly enough, they followed me, and a year later they got out of there too because of basically the same reason. But yeah, I say like sometimes you gotta like, you know, get rid of these clients, right? And so before maybe I you know, share maybe a story, because I don't have a ton, but when I've had to get sideways with clients, I have like that you know, what is it? What's the boxer with like the really awesome record that's never lost any fights? What am I thinking? I'm blanking on his name.
Mayweather.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of have that Mayweather. You know, like I haven't really lost because I get a little calculated, and I make people say uncle one way or another, and I've always gotten mine, and they always have to go get somebody else. Which, as I've done this longer and longer, gets tougher, because when, you know, that client tries to get somebody else, they literally have other contractors going, why aren't you still using Mike? Wait, why do I want this account now? And it gets tough. They have to go find somebody who doesn't know what they're getting into a lot of the time. So any ridiculous horror stories or stuff where basically the managing of the client has been like, you're fired by, like, any of those type of stories?
Mike, yeah, I never had a full situation where I had to fire somebody, but I got close to it, and it was an odd situation where I ended up. I loved her to death. Unfortunately she passed away a few years ago. A nice lady though. What was going on with her? She was like 95 years old at the time, 94 years old, and she had someone who was managing her finances that did not live with her. So whenever I'd send the invoice, the lady that lived in a different state, she was delaying the payments. So I wasn't receiving the payments. But the problem was, this lady, it wasn't really her fault, but it was, you know what I mean? Like, you know, her yard still needed to attend. And it got to a point where it's like, well, I can't continue servicing your yard if I'm not receiving my payments. And I know it's like you have that type of fork in the road. It's like you feel sorry for the lady. It's not really her, but at the end of the day, she's the one that hired the lady to take care of her finances. Long story short, she ended up firing this lady, having somebody else do it for her. And after that, everything was a smooth road from there. So it was a tricky situation because it was the first time for me being fairly new into the business at that point, even still now. I didn't know what to do. I really, and it's like, well, I can't continue. Obviously, I can't continue doing this for free. I can't continue spending gas, spending supplies and stuff like that just because I feel bad for this lady. But that's where I learned to be able, you know, I had to communicate with her. I had to set the ground straight. Like, this is what is going to happen. I need this, or, you know, unfortunately I can't do it, and put it in the best way possible. And then she realized it, ended up hiring somebody else, and everything was smooth after that.
Well, that was good, because, you know, she probably didn't realize that the person she hired was incompetent and was not doing her a service. She was making her, you know, her life difficult and your life difficult. And so it's great that you communicated that, and that it didn't result in having to let them go. It kind of sounds like it's self-resolved, and then the new person kept paying you until ultimately, you know, you had to move on from that situation just because, you know, it's that is my, if I could say this, that's like my least favorite thing about having a business ever is going to a client's funeral. It sucks.
Yeah, it's tough.
Sucks. I've done it, gosh, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 times now. Yeah, probably closer to 10, and it sucks, man. It sucks, especially like, and you've like become like family, and like, you know, the family's like hugging you, crying and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, you know, like this is those are not billable hours. That's but you know, it has provided closure, that's for sure, in situations like that. That's always tough stuff. All right, I was gonna say, man, Henry read my mind. Thanks for queuing this up. Country Lawns, Edison, provider of tonight's drink of choice, L81. Hope you're doing well, Mr. Edison. He's fired 3 in June and fired 2 properties today, channeling his inner Michael Bedell. Alex, have you taken Edison's energy and just laid that smack down and fired some clients as well?
Not like that. I mean, you know, for various reasons, either that things were added to the property or whatever, and we said, you know, it's going to cost more to maintain it because of these things. And yeah, when there's discretion between what I'm charging and what you want to pay, that's usually when we draw the line. Or, you know, you wanted to be an every week client, and now, oh well, my grass isn't growing as much. I decided I didn't want to water it this year, so can we do every 2 weeks? Or how about I just call you as needed? Sorry, we can't. But no, I always do it in the nicest way I possibly can, and just try to let them know that, you know, ultimately it's a decision that we have to make that is going to better our business. And unfortunately, it has nothing to do with them personally. Sometimes we've dropped clients that I had a friendship with outside of the business that I knew before I started my business. So, I mean, I see it as, you know, business is business. And if it doesn't work out, don't mix oil and water. So just stop before it gets worse.
Good, well said. Yeah, no, you got to stop the bleeding in situations, and that right there is exactly why I've moved on from every situation that I've moved on from. And unfortunately, my list of clients that I've fired is way, 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 way longer than clients that have fired me. And I'm not so sure that's a good thing or not. Maybe it's like makes me like a volatile person or something like that. But yeah, basically, like, people have caught, you know, when I've had to let clients go, there's either like the Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, where in the vast majority, I would say 95, no, more like 98, even 99% of them, there's really only a few bad apples. I've been honorable and I've finished out the year, or like the season or the contract period or whatever it is. In some cases, I've even almost all of those type of cases, like, it's been like kind of those route density situations where, like, you know, they might think we're all competitors, right? But I'm sure it might be kind of the same in your market. There's so much work these days and not enough people to do it that, like, we're all swimming in the deep end. And so we all know where we are and what we're doing. And so if one of us wants to move on from something, I might as well just hand it off to our friends on a silver platter. And so I've done those type of situations where I've kind of, like, you know, made it very easy and accessible to get with the other company in terms of communicating, I'm not coming back, you should call them. But then also, like, making that other company very apprised to basically what that customer's price point was on everything. That way the ball's totally in their court. If they want to probably continue a similar pricing structure, it's very easy to make a lateral move. And so I've been very accommodating in all those situations because, you know, there's been a couple different times where I made my business smaller, focused on different things. And most, you know, sometimes there's a few people that kind of like annoyed me and like oil and water, you just got to maybe move on from the whole thing. But and this is really what I want to get into to kind of end on, because this was originally when I pitched this idea to Echo on doing some of these live streams, and this was on the list. This is what I want to talk about with managing customers is every once in a while you have to like really stick up for yourself. And if there's anything I've learned in my almost 20 years of business now is that while, like we've talked about, you become friends and family with people and contractors and suppliers and what have you. And it has many issues with contractors and suppliers. But, while it's good to treat people like family and take care of people, sometimes you got to draw a very hard line in the sand, because lines are starting to get crossed, or you're being disrespected, or the expectations changed, or you see things changing on their end and you want to get out the door before everyone else does, because eventually it's like a musical chairs game, right? You don't want to be left without a chair. And so what I wanted to share with everybody is there's been a few times where I've had to really enforce these agreements that I've had and be very calculated with how I move on. And there was a very large wedding venue that's been in like People Magazine and stuff that we used to maintain. And the parents owned it. And it was like the father's life work. And me and him got along very well because we see the world the same way. We see business the same way. And we had, while there were written agreements and he had his accountant know that like I was on the pay list, there were, I didn't really nickel and dime him on like change orders and stuff. And because, we just worked together. But he wanted to retire, and he had two boys, and he wanted to turn the business over to the two boys. And I think they felt a little threatened by me and the relationship I had with the parents, because, I had dinner with the parents a couple times a month at their house just to like talk about things, because they did a lot of improvements. In fact, if you go to my website that's on the homepage, the improvement, the last big project I did when we redid the front of the conservatory there. And so, that was kind of like me and the dad's, work and a lot of my ideas and him giving the thumbs up to it. And they went out to France and picked some stuff and had some stuff shipped back. And I worked with their interior floral department because they also had a part of their business was they did interior horticulture. So that was these are my people, right? But the boys, not so much. They weren't into this horticulture thing. One was a musician, which I'm a musician. This guy was not a plant guy, but he was supposed to be a plant guy. And then his older brother was just a piece of work. And his older brother, and you guys are both, I can't wait to see your face on this. So like we have seasonal services, right? But he somehow thought it was smart to go on a quarterly agreement where basically we set up services on a quarterly basis. Yeah, I see JC's face. Like, why is that for our, like, that's so weird. Like, also, so what? You need to renew in July and renew in September? Like, the January's not that's a little weird, but like, the rest of them are just like, it gets more bizarre as the year goes on. And so we set up an agreement for April, May, and June, which was okay, I guess. But he got way sideways with me. And then with his significant other went to Europe for 3 weeks and left me like hanging a little bit money-wise. And so I knew they were about to get shit canned, but they didn't know it. And they also don't have any agreements from July 1st on. And so I went ahead and replaced them on the schedule, did not offer them any new contracts, let like 2 people know that I wasn't coming back, their facilities manager and the gal who was in charge of the weddings, because I knew they were both going to have to deal a little bit with the fact that I was leaving, because like it was going to create some like, oh shit type moments. And I just move on. And then like July 5th rolls around And I start getting the messages like, or no, it was July 2nd or 3rd. They were out of town and they came back in for a 4th of July party at the dad's house. And I like hadn't been there since June 20th. And they freak out. And I go, well, I don't have an agreement with you guys anymore. And to be honest, you still owe me. And it was only like a couple grand, which based on our relationship, I was ready to just walk away from it at that point and write it off as a bad debt at the end of the year. And they basically called, I called their bluff. At one point when the son was freaking out because his dad was like, what is going on here? What did you do? Like, why is this happening? What is going on over here? I said, well, yeah, we'll just call him Jim. That's not his name. We'll call him Jim. I said, well, Jim, I don't know. Maybe you're going to have to get a mower and cut your dad's lawn yourself. And so, he's like freaking out because, like, for us, it's like, all right, I guess we'll cut this. This guy's never cut a blade of grass in his entire life. So this is like asking him to go climb Mount Everest. And so I said, all right, okay, I'll tell you what. You have your dad cut me a check for the amount you owe me, and I'll go get things cleaned up for his party. And I did. And I shook his dad's hand, and he told me how much he respected me for what I was doing because, like, it took a lot of balls, and he was stunned that I was canning them as clients based on what they'd spent with me, and stunned that they had been totally replaced, and there wasn't even a chance they were getting back on the schedule. And
They
I
kind
got
of shot
paid.
themselves in the foot.
What?
They shot themselves in the foot for doing that.
And they were the people who they had a hell of a time finding someone. And finally, the contractor that took the bait, I've actually walked them through how to do some stuff there because it is a little bit of a challenging site. But I'd spent a lot of time there, and redone some of it, so I knew where things were, and maybe some other people didn't. And so, I still am an okay enough person that I would help that other contractor out. That family, I don't know. I think maybe if the dad came in and took everything back over and called me, I'm so busy now I'd have to say no, but I'd be tempted to reconsider because I really did like working with him. But his sons, they've continued to make bad decisions. Like Alex, do you deal with well water and stuff, right? If you're dealing with septic fields, you deal with well water. So you know what like a Rideau rust system is, right?
We don't deal with the wells much.
Okay.
Like that's the well company.
Right. But I'm saying most areas that have septic fields means you have a well too, right? Like at least I have both. At my house, I have a well and a septic field.
Surprisingly, it's not.
Or you like have city water, but people don't have sewer lines.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I was going to go ahead.
I mean, a lot of the areas is all city water. There's some. It's like kind of weird, like sporadic. Like
okay.
One part of town, city, one's not.
All right. Well, my point was like so that they used to all be on a well, and then city water got ran, and they hooked it all up. But the well was sitting there capped, and they had this great idea. Because, So we redid the front entryway and the whole thing, and we cranked that sprinkler system up and got them an $18,000 water bill. And now, when weddings start at $30,000 and end up more like 60 or 70, it all just goes away, and who cares, right? But they that like really got them. Oh, we got to get this well hooked up. And actually, part of I think why me and the son started butting heads, I was like, you're gonna have to put. There's this company that makes this product. It's called Rideau Rust, and you hook it up to the well, and it binds all the iron, and it makes it so the iron doesn't stick and rust everything. And I was like, if you do this, you're gonna have to do these other things, or you're gonna like ruin this beautiful venue. And they did not listen to me, and they hooked that well up, and it looks so gaudy now. And I didn't even know they did it. I had other people calling me like, you're not going to believe what happened. And I feel really bad for the dad because I bet you he feels the same way I did. We're like, my stupid son wanted to save $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year. And, at that level of business, it's like nothing. And it's exactly what JC said. They shot themselves in the foot. And, I made them call, cry uncle on that one. They had their party. They thought they could have it their way. They thought they could, just give me the runaround. And I went from like managing everything to getting put on this short leash, but I never did anything wrong where like I really messed up and it made sense to get put on this short leash. It was just like the son had this power trip, and I think he wanted to like show how he really reined in everything. But all he did was literally cause absolute chaos for everything. And it sounds like I left and the chaos has continued. So, and there's a couple other stories I could share, but they're all kind of in the same vein where, you've got to really stick to your guns sometimes, and you've got to be a little crafty. And I guess the last thing I'll say is if you're an honorable person and you've done the work that you're supposed to do and you're in the right, and someone is just on a power trip because they think they're a big deal, or like the litigation attorney from Ally Financial, or I'm not naming specifics or anything. But it turns out that a landscape contractor from Southeast Michigan can make them cry uncle too, because a signed agreement is a signed agreement. And I too can chew your credit score up, and, things can go to collections. And, when you're trying to send your kid to like Yale or something like that, it's really not what you want to have happen. And so, it's just all who you know, and how you handle things, and how you portray yourself in the agreements that you have. And, in turn, then you can be this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, just like me, where you can be so nice and help everybody out. But the second they get sideways with you, they're about to get left high and dry, because, that was before now, where there's like a wait list. And, I could quickly move on from things much more than I did. I actually had to like do a little hustling, but I had 4 or 6 weeks. And so you guys have never had to do anything like that, huh? No, just me. Just
No,
me. All right.
to like that extent.
Okay. Well, there you go. I guess I'm such a nice guy then. Yeah. All right. How about liens? Have you ever had to file any liens on anything?
No, usually there's other things that can be said, that
Such as?
when you're doing their neighbor's fall cleanup and they see all the leaves go into the truck and they ask you to do yours, and you say, no, I can just dump that right there, or you guys can just pay me. And you get paid pretty quickly when they know that they're the only one who's a mess, and their neighbors are now going to come start harassing them. Why didn't you get done? So usually that embarrassment in front of face to face is enough, but
it's like leverage.
Yeah, as you say that, I have egged on one of those situations that that group where I was saying like I take care of Dorothy but not her son. So there's a stretch of it's like 23 houses in a row that we used to do, but there's like a couple people who kind of spoiled the whole thing. And I think everybody's now figured that out, because like there's their best friend, who's actually one of the third largest chicken broker in North America. Shout out to him. He's just behind Tyson and whatever the other big one is. I'm blanking on it, but
Purdue.
Purdue, yes, Tyson and Purdue. He's number 3. And anyway, like I will go do work for them. And then actually like their friends was like, oh, we need this 1 rows of share removed. And I'm like, nope. Not happening. and I could tell really like ground their gears that like I canned everybody. I left for a couple of years, and now I'll come back every once in a great while and do work for their best friend because he's a good guy and he's a business guy and he gets it. And he also called me when I moved on and told me how much he respected me for doing that. And he goes, I remember how I always say, I remember him going in his like really thick, like old guy Jewish accent, Michael, I respect you for doing that. I understand. I know what happened. I know. I understand what those people did to you, and that wasn't right. But you are an honorable man, and you should move on to better things. We had that nice conversation, and I will take care of him every once in a while because he's a good guy. His friends are assholes, and they're actually kind of his neighbors too. But yeah, all right. So filing liens, you've never had to go that route, huh? Oh man, yeah. That's I haven't done any. I haven't filed a lien in like 6-8 years. But earlier in my career, when I wasn't as good as qualifying people, I that was kind of my. If you weren't going to pay, I went that route. And there's only one I haven't collected on. And I don't know at this point, because here's how liens work in Michigan. If and when that guy ever wants to sell that property, I'm going to have to get involved because he does have to then pay that invoice. And that just it sits against his title on his house, and in order to have a clean title to sell his house, that lien will have to be serviced. And I don't know, especially because like I needed the money 10 years ago. I don't really need that. I mean, I'll take it. I'm a business guy, but at the same time, a spiteful me would go, I don't know, maybe I'm going to make a judge make me take a judgment to take this, because like I would also just love to hold up the sale of his house at this point, because he's a jerk McJerk face, and it's terrible when you are involved with the Boys and Girls Club of America. And I'll probably leave it at that because you guys probably figure out who he is. But, when you, lead people on that you're a good person based on your career, but then you're a total jerky McJerk face to work for, but he still has I think going for about $2 or $3 grand lien against his house. But every single other one, people either went, oh crap, and settled up because they realized that kind of shows up forever. Like you can still search for free on the county web base if you can get their property ID number, and you can probably see that paperwork that I filed on those sites because it stays forever. Even when you have the last sheet that shows that it's been paid, it's on there forever. And there's been a time or two where people tried to bury their head in the sand, and then they went to refinance or something like that. And I've had at that point the bank settle up with me because I'm holding up the refinance, and so they roll it into the refi. And but just talking out loud, I know things are different state to state. Mechanics liens here in the state of Michigan, as long as you have signed agreements and a invoice and have taken the proper channels and understand how to do the paperwork. And if you don't, I can only speak to Oakland County, but the gals of the county office are total sweethearts and will totally even help you fill out the paperwork because they would love to see you get paid because, as they said to me, turns out all the jerky McJerk faces don't really come in here. It's like the hard workers who now have to fill out extra paperwork and pay a fee and stuff like that to, get all that stuff out. But of course, that's where you attach that additional invoice for the filing fee and the processing fee. And, for my company, those start at $1,000 on top of everything. So, and you got to roll that in because you got to pay to get it released and all that stuff. And that is on me. And, but lessons learned. So I know things are different state to state, but sometimes when things get a little tough with managing clients and customers, you have to understand the options that are available to you, whether it's collections or liens or spinning them in a circle and understanding that they have a party, but they travel a lot and you're maybe a little smarter at scheduling than they are. And you just let life play out, and then you let your phone ring, and then you get your check. It's a good day for a Monday. Cool. Well, anything you guys want to add to that before we land the plane there?
No, it's a good topic. I'm glad that we touched upon some of the key points today, and glad that we all got together and were able to do this. So, yeah.
Perfect. What about you, Alex?
I think it was a great conversation. We hit a lot of great points, and hopefully somebody can take something from it.
Perfect. Well, I see we got Edison's comment in here. He can provide closure to us. The 2 in June thought he should be at beck and call, and made it third time cussing him out over their OG contractor. Wow, is that like original gangster contractor? Dang. Not installing irrigation on 2 acres. Saw today poor property manager and lack of, I'm going to say that's communication. Though originally I read that as lack of corn. But I caught that before I said lack of corn out loud. But that actually would be kind of cool if it was poor property manager and lack of corn. I think that'd be kind of a BA way of firing someone. Like, yeah, man, there was just a lack of corn. Make for a legendary story. Cool. All right. Well, we leave everybody with an actionable step when we do these. And this week's actionable step, or this month, or however you want to listen to these, this one's actionable step is consider utilizing written agreements to manage expectations with your clients. The clearer you can communicate how you are going to operate, how they're going to pay you, and how you're going to complete the job, and when there may be delays on how it's going to be handled, will ultimately leave your client with a positive impression at the end, realizing that even though maybe not everything went as planned, they had somebody who would work with them through the end and get them to the promised land of a finished project, and you paid in full. And so your actionable step is to consider implementing a written agreement or some other systems and processes in your business that better the communication, better getting paid. Jensen mentioned, JC mentions he uses Yardbooks. I use Java for scheduling. I use QuickBooks for payment. Alex, what do you use?
We use QuickBooks.
Perfect. And so there's all these different avenues available, and I think that's we're talking about juice being worth the squeeze. The juice is always worth the squeeze when we get paid. Am I right? That's when living's good. So we got Vince the Longineer hopping on. What's going on, everyone? Well, we're getting out of here, Vince, and I hope you're having an awesome Monday. Hope everyone's having an awesome Monday, or whatever the day you're listening to this is. Maybe it's a Friday. That would be great too, because then you got all weekend or all work weekend if you're JC, right? So thank you so much for listening. I'm Michael from Bedell Property Management. We'll be back maybe next month, maybe sooner. Who knows? We're headed into media season, but we'll be back with you guys soon enough. So take care, be safe, be good to each other, hug the ones you love, and we'll see you on this next one, whenever that is. Take care. Be safe, everyone.